the fighter is going to be it for xIceblue, and for Will, really the red mage is going to be the best initial attacker.
Right, the fighter has guaranteed good equipment that's going to be around in the early shops. Like, you will find something that he can use. The rest of the characters, especially the mages, are going to be relying on their spells to turn up at usable levels. And the black belt doesn't get good for quite a while. He's more of a late game character. So I kind of predict that xIceblue is going to jump out to relatively an early game comfortable situation, whereas Will's going to have to work for it more. But Will might be able to do more running with that thief, which is very valuable against encounters which might be, very difficult or hard to get away from for xIceblue's side.
Yeah, if early levels are required, then xIceblue is going to be in a much more comfortable situation here. But if early levels are not required, we got some heal 3, and so if they're in the white mage only slots,
I definitely like those early heals, and Brack, it looks like our main attack spell. So Brack is a basically insta-death kill. It's either going to work or it's not.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much gonna work within a couple of tries against Garland. But wooden staff is gonna be our main weapon there, huh? That's quite a sad situation.
A little bit of poverty here to start, but we should get a lot of money from the early game. The randomizer gives you a multiplier for your rewards, as well as a boost to like a flat value. So these large groups of imps are going to give you way more than they would in the base game, and will quickly be able to get some levels and to be able to afford more equipment and spells if they want it.
So this is an instance where it's possible where we could have a seed that will give us a big roadblock when we get to the pirates, because there's no AoE spells at Canaria here, so we would need to see one in Provoke really to give us a good shot to take out any pirates that have an AoE attack themselves, where they can damage all the party members and take them out at once, or maybe have an instant death spell and take out all the party members at once.
Yeah, we could go for AoE at Provoco, or else we do have 6 treasure chests that are accessible relatively early. 3 in Temple of Fiends that are not key-locked, 3 in Matoya's Cave, and those could have an AoE item like the Zeus Gauntlet or Thor Hammer. You could get some really powerful gear. Even though you can't equip it, you can still use it to cast spells in battle, and those can really swing how an early game works.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see both of them fighting some imps early. I feel like with the Brack spell, I would just go ahead and go for Garland. Maybe look to see if I can get a tent or a house or a cabin here. Those tents are really expensive.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like a lot of the item prices are very high. So it's going to be a little bit of insurance to be able to save up and get some uses of those.
The piers are a little discounted.
Those are not bad. The houses are about half price, but those tents, those are the ones that are like the backbone. Having tents and cabins to just do safety saves, really important in the early game.
Yeah. Especially if you get any rough overworld encounters, what you want to do is save frequently and reset if you run into a bad encounter. But at the same time, what they might want to do here is you might want to buy a whole bunch of tents in the beginning of the game, but instead they could hold off on buying things, and maybe cabins will end up being really cheap, so they can buy a bunch of those instead.
And it looks like Temple of Fiends had nothing but money, but it was a lot of money, so they don't really have to worry about poverty in the early game. That'll get them probably most of the gear and spells they want for the first couple of towns.
Yeah, I guess at some point, one of the biggest money things that you see that you want to be able to spend money on is a pro ring, probably, if we can see some of those early. And those can be, anywhere from, man, I should look at the actual price range on it, but it can be like 10k to 50k for a pro ring. So getting a bunch of money at any point early is definitely not useful or useless. I mean, sorry, like there's no limit to how much money they can find a use for the most part early, because there are so few chests available to them.
And it looks like Garland has fallen to pieces on both of our runners' streams, so no problems with Garland here. He didn't really get to do much with insta-death. You don't have to worry about him pulling out that second or third round attack. It's going to be first round or bust.
And we see xIceblue buying 30 pures. I don't feel like I usually see most people go ahead and do that, but he's just making sure he never has to go back and buy more, I guess.
I mean, I love the buy 10 feature of the randomizer so much. Sometimes I just buy things just because I can.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's great to be safe. I don't know if he bought any softs. It's interesting to note that, because you can always find your first enemies that can turn you to stone in a pretty inconvenient place, and if you don't have any softs on hand,
and softs are guaranteed to be at the starting town, just in case there is monsters with petrification there, as well as pures. But there's not many towns overall that have softs, so you could go a pretty long streak until you find the next store that has them. You see xIceblue going up to Matoya's cave here. I like to do the early Matoya because it is 3 easily accessible chests. It might be really good, and you don't necessarily want to wait for doing the Mystic Key quest to ever come and visit here. This case looks like a bust, and so by saving in the overworld first, xIceblue was able to reset out and not have to backtrack over those steps. That's used in a couple of places wherever you think it's a speculative trip in. There might be something there, or you might just want to bail and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and it really can depend on...
Oh, level 2
we
Fade.
got level 2 Fade.
So Fade and Life 1 available in Provoca. Those are great. Fade is the holy spell in Final Fantasy 1 on the NES version, so it's the White Mage's really only big attack. And it looks like Black Mage is still a little bit shut out here. So
if the Fade spell is available to the Red Mage, I think you probably know that based on its position. Then Will has a big advantage here with his spells, because Zap is something that is not going to be 100% successful, but Fade is going to clear pretty much any early group of enemies.
Right, I'm not sure if that Fade is in a slot where the Knight, if he gets class change on the Fighter, he might be able to pick that up, because the Fighter does get 1st through 4th tier spell slots after class change. Right. Although some seeds you might never find that tail, and you might be stuck with your starter classes the entire game.
Well, looks like the pirates have rolled over here, so no early dead end.
That's good in a way, but it's also kind of scary to not see a lot of spells or skills early on, because you know that they're somewhere in the game. And if you're halfway through and you haven't seen, Nuke or Lit 3 or Fire 3 floating around, they could all be in one dungeon or just one big stretch of nasty monsters. The worst is coming up if they have a lot of really dangerous monsters in Marsh Cave and they don't have early TNT.
That's a pretty funny price for the gold bracelets there. It's not max price, but it's like 400 gold short of max price. Yeah, but regarding those spells, a lot of people think when you get, say, imps with Nuke or something, that's really bad. But, it's generally not that hard to avoid imps. You only see them in a few locations early in the game, and then once you get past them, you're never going to see that spell from a common enemy again. So,
Right, there's a question in chat for what happens if a seed is unbeatable. In this case, we got past the pirates, and that's the main cutoff. There's a 30-minute time limit to beat the pirates, or if both runners agree that the seed is just absolutely nuts and can't be finished, then they do a re-roll. So I don't think we're going to see really any potential of that until we get to very end of the game at Temple of Fiends Revisited. Most likely, you'd have to have all the stats and skills line up to have something that you would really not want to take on. but it is possible to have really crazy chaos Tiamat 2 or Kraken 2, I've seen.
Yeah, Will does have Fade on his red mage as well here, so that's going to be really big for clearing out a lot of these early enemies.
The red mage is not going to have as many casts of it, because the red mages do get spell slots at a slower rate than a pure spellcaster does, but it will be some bonus casts, and it also is a backup in case the white mage dies. It'll be able to fade or use other white magic spells early on, which can really bail you out of a tough situation.
Oh yeah, there's a weird thing that happens with Medusa scripts where there are multiple enemies that can have that same script, I guess.
Yeah, Medusa's a special one because Medusa, Gur-Medusa, and Saria were coded to share an enemy script, so those 3 monster scripts could get shuffled around. Otherwise, it is unique for all of the monster skills and abilities. We're going through Elfland right here. This is a really important early game because this has 2 sets of shops, so you have twice as many chances to pick up spells here. Looks like we got some good ones here. There's Lit 3 coming in. We also saw Harm 4. So we do have potentially more damage options now for our characters. We're missing some of the good ones, though. We don't have Nuke. Be great to have Fast and Temper, things that will help buff our Black Belt or Fighter later on.
We found the bottle here in Elfland. It's a max price, so it's going to be a bit before we can pick that up. Oh, there we see xIceblue picking up some soft potions, so shouldn't have to worry about that.
Pro Ring 41,000, so that did roll pretty high there in terms of cost. Pro Ring is your best early game way of getting instant death resistance, and not all instant death skills and spells are death elemental, but it's nice for the handful that are. Like, that's also a really good armor piece for every character class because there's no restrictions on who can use it.
Yeah, it's like plus 10 for absorb, so I believe it's something along those lines, and anyone can equip it, so that's really unusual. Most of the armor that can be equipped by any character is like +1 or +2 absorb, except for the bracelets.
Yeah, the Pro Cape and Pro Ring are both +8 and usable by anybody, except Black Belts cannot use the Pro Cape. So we'll see if that comes into play. There are 2 Pro Capes in the game that would be harder for Will to use than for xIceblue to use.
Well, Will's got the red mage and the white mage, and the thief if he wants to, so.
And here we see xIceblue going into Marsh Cave. This is very, very nerve-wracking until you notice that the monsters are safe. So here, Shadows was a great one because that has a 90% ambush rate, or thereabouts, and so you don't want Shadows to have something like insta-death or nuke or crazy skills like that.
That is a definite easy way to get a lot of quick resets. Oh, we have TNT up in the top of a Marsh Cave here.
Now, Jacob, do you continue searching Marsh Cave? You found a progression item, which will unlock a big chunk of the game. There could be nothing in the bottom half, and it's a long walk.
Yeah, see, the main reason that I do not continue searching Marsh Cave at this point is that I want to have the magic key if I'm going to be doing the bottom floor at this point. So, if, there's a chance that the crown is your next progression item and that's on the bottom floor, but that's a pretty unlikely scenario, and I'm just going to get out of here and, move on.
Right, there's 6 on the bottom floor plus 3 more that are key locked. There's like 20 you can get in Volcano, a dozen or so in Ice Cave, half a dozen in Ordeals. There's lots of places that are opened up. And so this is, easy monsters, so not too bad in terms of the combat, but not nearly the chest density as you're going to have in other locations.
Right, well, it's hard to say in the randomizer that any enemies are easy.
At least the ones we've seen so far in here.
Yeah. Everything to this point has looked pretty non-threatening, and that does give you a little bit of pause when you think about leaving this area, I guess, because that could mean that the other areas are full of a lot of troublesome monsters. So there's definitely some reason to think that maybe you do want to stick around here and just take a quick look, as long as it's pretty easy to get to the bottom of this cave. But at the same time, man, it would just be really nice to get on and get over to the ice cave and or the volcano and like do the big chest groups in the required areas that you have to go to. So
it looks like xIceblue is bailing. Another factor for this is that in these later rounds of the randomizer tournament, there are incentivized treasure chests in Ordeals and Ice Cave. Incentivized means that there is something in a preset list that it's going to be at the final chest of each dungeon. They're not all quest items, but the quest items are all on the list, and then there's also the Masmune and ribbons, so it's usually a pretty good pick, unless you happen to get like the ruby or the adamant. Then you get the wah-wah sound, and you realize that you might have picked a better dungeon instead.
Yeah. Ruby could be required if the floater is in the bottom of the Earth Cave, or if the crown is in the bottom of the Earth Cave, and that leads to the floater. But otherwise, as of these versions here, and pretty much for the majority of the life of Final Fantasy Randomizer, if you get the floater early, you can just fly to the back of Earth Cave to get to Sardia.
Right.
Sardia.
Having a ruby required is like a pedestal seed for Final Fantasy 1 Randomizer. It's one that is like a 5% chance, and everybody cheers when it happens because you know the runners are really, really dreading it when it's even looking like a possibility.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to get that floater as soon as possible, so that they can get their airship and get their overworld travel much faster and not have to worry about all those encounters on the overworld. Plus, once you get that airship, of course, you can pick up a bunch of chests rather quickly.
And here we see xIceblue doing the TNT to blast open the canal. The canal is basically blocking the inner sea off from most of the rest of the map. You can't go to the northern areas yet until you have the airship, but it does expand out the world into Melmond, Crescent Lake, Earth Cave, Volcano, Ice Cave, and with the canoe being early accessible, also Ordeals. So we have a lot of places where xIceblue could be going. And I usually like to do a sweep of the towns first to know what resources I'm going to have. But our runners do have a lot of good spells already, so they might go directly for a dungeon.
Yeah. We don't have warp or exit, though, right?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any travel spells yet. So those are going to be potentially class restricted, depending on what level they end up being at.
Right. So that could be pretty significant, because warp and exit both help quite a bit with exploration of Ice Cave or Castle of Ordeals. So that might influence the runner's decisions as well.
And xIceblue does have an advantage over Will for the warp, because the Black Mage is going to have potentially a lot more accessible spells early on than the Red Mage will for Black Magic. Cure 3, an interesting pickup there. Fog 2, I really like as well. Oh, that is a big level. Temper, Ice 3, and Fire 3, all 5th tier. So Temper does work in the randomizer. That is completely bugged to be broken, as is the Saber spell for buffing your attackers in the vanilla game. But with Temper and Saber functional, it lets you stack up to crazy amounts of damage on the bosses. It's a very common endgame strategy to have fast, a couple Tempers, a Giant's Glove, and then start doing thousands of damage.
Let's see if xIceblue goes back and picks up a spell now that he sold that gauntlet.
Yeah, Opal Gauntlet, unlikely to be useful. That is a night-only piece of gear, and you're likely to find a lot of other things. Like, you're going to have those pro rings anyway, and that takes up the same armor slot, so rarely going to ever use that. This case, unfortunately, it looked like the Opal Gauntlet was not that valuable, because it got pretty heavily degraded by the price scale.
Yeah, Opal Gauntlets are a kind of nice find early in a way, just because they're pretty easy to carry back to the armor shop and sell them.
And we see Will going to the south part. xIceblue skipped this, so this could be a big swing depending on what we find in these half-dozen treasure chests. And you'll see that Will be skipping a lot of chests, or at least it looks like it. It's because Final Fantasy has what's called link chests. There's only a limited number of unique tile sets for treasures, and so what they did was some of them are just duplicated. And the first treasure chest you open will have the item, the second one will just be empty. So you don't have to actually touch every treasure chest to clear this place out. I'll be interested to see if xIceblue sticks around Crescent Lake for a while here. This is a great area for getting some levels because the monsters are worth quite a lot of experience and you're right by a town. So you can usually pick up enough levels to have some hit points and also get a lot more spell slots for your spellcasters if they let you. Like, there could also be some really nasty stuff around here.
Wow. What is going on with these wizards?
Ooh, 6-tier warp, nuke, and fast. So xIceblue finding that most of the great black magic spells 6-tier, and that is very significant because red mages do not get all the 6-tier casts, and they're restricted from them until after class change.
Did xIceblue purchase any of them?
I don't think xIceblue has the money for it, so that's why I'm projecting that he will want to get some grinding done here.
Okay.
Looking like he's doing it on the canoe? That'll be interesting to see if he's got a particular reason for doing this.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of fighting hydras in general, though.
Usually the land monsters around here are better because peeds, trolls, bulls, even the cobra scorpion stack, if you have a lot of casts of AoE spells, those are generally really good for experience and gold. It can be done fairly quickly.
He's finding a lot of hydras here, that's for sure.
Sail on hydras at the Crescent Lake.
Oh, goodness gracious. They are hitting hard today, which is nothing unusual. Hydras are among the hardest hitters you can find in the early game here.
And that flashed up really fast. Was that actually a big hit, or was that death touch the hydras had?
I think it was a big hit. It was like 222 damage on his black belt.
Okay, because there is a monster that will have death touch that's shuffled in from the sorcerers in the base game, and you want it to be on a monster that's relatively far away from everybody else because there is nothing that blocks that death touch. Ribbon doesn't block it. Pro ring, whatever you have, doesn't work. It's all about your just innate magic defense. You just have to hope it doesn't proc. And we'll find out what monster will have that tonight, or we might not if it turns out to be one that's a really uncommon spawn.
It also wouldn't be the worst thing to have death touch on a monster that's already hitting you for 200 damage or something as it is, since if he's gonna take away your life as it is, then you might as well just let him, take it away in more ways than one. It's not gonna hurt you. Oh, I don't think we can make any judgments that the bot was nice to the runners yet. It's been nice so far, but the nicer that it is early, the more potential for some late game suffering.
I think any seed that doesn't require you to use 4 wizards is generally being nice to you at the start. I don't know if we've seen any real value out of the Marsh Cave play here. So we'll find out how important it was to have that knowledge that Marsh Cave is relatively dry in terms of equipment.
Yeah, it's true. They could have come down to the choice of Marsh or Earth looking for the floater in the end, and if that's the case, then Will has a definite advantage here because he's already cleared out these chests, and xIceblue might be tempted to go back to Marsh first.
Right, if you've already cleared most of that bottom floor, those 3 key-locked treasure chests suddenly way less enticing once you got that mystic key, and so you'll probably search other areas first.
Oh, the hydras have stun touch. So they do have a status effect on their attack, but
luckily it's one of the good ones, and There are a lot of stun touch monsters because many of the undead in the base game do have stun touch. So that's one of the really common ones. There's only going to be one status ailment, if any, on a monster. You can have sleep touch, petrification touch, stun touch, or death touch. And we will definitely see which monsters are going to be most troublesome for having those.
It looks like there's a pretty decent walk at the start of a power cycle here. So we might be seeing a lot of power cycles from the runners to try to give some rescares. It's not anything too remarkable for the way that this game can shuffle the RNG table, but it's pretty decently long.
And for this round, RNG is shuffled. So there is, built into Final Fantasy, kind of a static table, which tells you how many steps to the next encounter, what monster groups, and so on. And because it's shuffled around, you could have big gaps or otherwise really useful knowledge about certain parts of the encounter cycle being more advantageous. So if you know how to predict where the encounters coming up can be, you can route around difficult floors or even difficult monster packs if you happen to know what the encounter groups are. And it looks like xIceblue going over to Gurgir Volcano here. Gurgir Volcano on the second floor has a very big pot of treasure chests. There is a couple of treasure chests on that floor that are off to the side, as well as another couple of treasure chests that are all the way at the bottom. This group here that's on the west side usually is a prime target. Looks like he's going for the isolated ones here first. Just money so far.
Yeah, these two up in the top right here are particularly tempting to skip if you are considering skipping treasure chests, because they're quite a few steps out of the way, and the second chest is guarded by 1 to 2 fires. So, Will apparently never went to Dwarf Cave to check those first 2 chests. Either that or he did check them and he's just opening them again after having reset earlier. It's an interesting gamble to make, maybe, to skip the early Dwarf Cave check and go straight to Marsh Cave, because the most likely scenario is that the TNT will be in the Marsh Cave. But at the same time, it can cost quite a bit of time to go to the Marsh Cave and not find anything versus a relatively easy check at the Dwarf Cave there, just for those 2.
And we'll see if xIceblue turns up anything interesting in here. This is possibly going to be our progression, but there's so many chests that are open at the start here that you really have to make a little bit of a gamble about which one that you want to commit to. We'll see if Will does the same decision when we get to his side of sailing over to Crescent Lake.
I don't know if xIceblue actually checked that chest there, or if he stepped away before remembering that he needed to check it. Yeah. If you're enjoying the play that you're seeing here, and you want to get in on something like this, there's going to be an Final Fantasy Randomizer league that's starting, and the only real requirements are that you have some way to stream the game, and you can join the races on SRL. But if you look in the chat here, you'll see the links to the league information. Yeah, xIceblue did miss checking that chest the first time.
Either he just wanted to fight some fires some more. Those are relatively easy monsters because that is an unrunnable encounter, meaning that you will never be ambushed by them. They're pretty much known once you see them once. In this case, knowing that they're not going to have anything super dangerous to take out your party, and they're worth quite a lot for experience and gold.
Yeah, I think, though, that you always want to check the chest the first time, because if something goes wrong on the second fight, you don't want to have to walk back to that chest again for no reason. And wow, that was quite a hit from an Argoyle there on that Black Belt.
And we see Will doing a bit of route divergence. He's going to the Earth Cave instead. Earth Cave is a lot more scattered for its treasure chests, and you're also blocked unless you find the ruby in order to get the rod, or you find the floater to get the rod. Then you can't go past the 3rd floor. So you often see runners try to avoid Earth Cave, but it's an interesting strategy to go here early to see if this might turn up an item that xIceblue will miss out on.
Yeah, Will is what most people would consider taking the risks here. He did find a light axe, but it looks like he reset it, so he's not keeping it. The light axes are nice, though, because they cast harm 2 when you use them as items in a battle.
Yeah, especially if you're going to Ice Cave anywhere nearby. The number of undead there is quite large, and so having harm 2 can help you clear out those encounters and get some experience along the way. xIceblue coming up on the big motherload of treasure chests. So here's where we're going to find out whether Great Volcano has value. There's a ribbon. That is really big for a find because that is all of the status and elemental resistances rolled into one. Its only downside, it doesn't give you a lot of defense, so only 1 point of the armor absorb. We're finding another bit of miscellaneous weapons and armor. Not really anything significant there. A lot of knight gear. All the opal gear except for the bracelet is knight only. And then we found a mid-tier sword, the Rune Sword, which a thief will maybe think about being happy for those mid-tier swords, but nobody else. Oh, and hyenas have poison, which is a pretty devastating attack in the early game. We'll see hyenas both here as well as in the Earth Cave area.
Oh, poison glare. Followed by glare, yeah. It's a nice little combo.
So glare is an instant death ability. Poison's a big damage ability. Those are definitely going to be monsters that you don't want to tangle with too much.
And thunder, okay.
I actually kind of like this because now we've got 3 really bad skills out of the way.
So far in Volcano, the ribbon is the big find. I don't think that many people would argue that the ribbon is not the best piece of armor in the game.
Unless they get really hard up for equipment later on, ribbon definitely the big one there. So 3 ribbons total. You don't have enough for all 4 of your party members, which is going to force them to make a sacrifice in the late game. Maybe more than 1, depending on if they find the rest of those ribbons.
Yeah, Silver Axe is not a bad weapon at this point in the game for xIceblue. I think it's probably better than the Rune Sword.
And it looks like xIceblue is going to go continue on. You know, we do have those fades, so carry could be beatable right now, and there are a bunch of treasures just on the bottom floor. If you can't beat carry, though, then you have to do a little bit of thinking about whether you want to backtrack all the way out of this dungeon in order to escape with the treasures at the bottom. Will at Crescent Lake, probably disappointed to see the black magic spells at this point, but since he's been to the first 5 spell shops, already knows that the spells were going to be somewhere at the higher tiers. And this is where you kind of think about, like, what is your opponent doing? Like, if your opponent has a black mage, then you're a little bit more worried than if the spells were at, like, 8th tier, where they'd be almost entirely inaccessible for most of the game.
So we've got a Vorpal sighting here.
Vorpal's a somewhat controversial item because it's a very poor attack, but it has a decent critical hit rate. So some people really like it, some people think it's awful. It has kind of a more divisive opinion than most other items in the game.
Yeah, so the critical hit rates in the original Final Fantasy NES game are broken. They are just corresponding to the weapon index when they were supposed to have another value. So as far as what the critical hits rates are believed to supposed to have been, um, the Vorpalism on the highest. So one of the features of this randomizer is fixing the critical rates. Ooh, Aegis and white shirt in that little corner there.
And the right chest, that was not accidental. That is a lake treasure chest, so there's no reason to go and touch that for clearing out Gregory Volcano. We'll see if xIceblue does an Agama grind here. I'm guessing not, having walked around the side. And finding out that Grey Worm's got Cremate. That is definitely a big attack that actually is not too bad, because Grey W does not appear in too many other places until you get to Temple of Fiends Revisited on Carrie's floor there. Yeah,
but at that point, Cremate is just a little bother. It's not nothing to be afraid of, just some HP restore sync, basically. So there's a question here of how many of these Agamas is xIceblue gonna go ahead and try to kill?
I'm gonna guess not many with this setup, because lacking a really good way of killing Agamas, like you can't use those fade charges, those are needed for carry. The axes and the black belt at this level, not great yet at doing a lot of damage. Probably gonna run out of heal potions with this setup here, before getting too far into a grind.
I do like that he was using the break spell. It's a good place to dump those here. And maybe you'll get lucky and take him down quickly.
Will now joining us at the Volcano after having checked Earth Cave. So Will has gone to more locations. Will's gone to the bottom half of Marsh, the first little bit of Earth Cave. So those are things which xIceblue is probably going to have to do later. Unless the seed turns out to be one where you could just go mode the rest of those locations. This is something where it's hard to gauge who really has an advantage right now in terms of progress.
Yeah, the bottom of Marsh seems unlikely at this point that it's something that would be necessary for xIceblue to return to, but the first chests in Earth are quite likely in an area that xIceblue will end up checking at some point. But the walk to Earth and back is the time loss there, more than anything.
Ooh, and Agama taking out the Black Mage. I think we do have a couple casts of life, though. So we do have a little bit of insurance policy to recover that.
Yeah, but does he want to resurrect that Black Mage is also a question here. Maybe he wants to leave the Black Mage dead to get some experience on the other guys?
Looks like it. So the way that experience works in this game is that monsters have a fixed amount. In this case, Agamas give you 2,472 experience. That's divided equally among your living party members. So now he's dividing it 3 ways instead of 4, and the 2472 is before the multiplier that you have, in which case this is, I think, 4x plus 400 that we are playing with right now. So that'll determine the amount of experience each party member gets. So basically getting a 4/3 share while the Black Mage is dead. Our black belt getting a little bit more capability for fighting. The thing about the black belts is that their innate abilities for both weapon and armor use, if they are not equipped with any items, are going to be really vital for the late game. So you'll see that the black belts start off relatively underpowered. They have a hard time even keeping up with the red mage or the thief, but then they'll just keep getting stronger and stronger as you level them up. So it's not unusual to see in the late game killing everybody off except for the black belt just to get them as much experience as possible in each fight.
I love when you get the level up and all of a sudden your character who hadn't lost any HP is now crouching down because you passed the 1/4 barrier for HP.
Alright, looks like xIceblue does want to have the fighter here. Oh, it actually does have a lot of heal potions left. I thought that xIceblue was lower on heal potions than that. So yes, this could be a grind for pretty much the entire game in terms of experience right here for xIceblue side.
Did he have Cure 4 charges left as well?
It looked like there were Cure 4 and life charges remaining.
Yeah. A little surprised that he didn't just go ahead and use one there. Maybe he is going to let the fighter die at some point and just grind the black belt.
I'm guessing saving the Cure 4 for as late as possible, so that he's got a higher max HP and getting more value out of them, and using the heal potions early.
Also a good idea.
There we see Will getting devastated by those hyenas. We saw that happen to xIceblue early on. The hyenas, they're seriously dangerous, so if we're not able to get away with this black belt next turn, that thunder coming up could wipe Will's party. There we go. So Will taking a death there.
Yeah, he'll have to go back and pick up that ribbon for sure, but other than that, he didn't lose much progress there. Maybe some grinding, perhaps.
And knowing where the items are will allow Will to skip the ones that were low value on the pickups. So that gives you a little bit of an advantage. If you do die, the knowledge is still really useful for which treasure chest you need to target.
Of course, Volcano, with the way that its treasure rooms can kind of wind all over the place, it can be hard to remember what you've picked up sometimes. And you would think that Will might remember that there's nothing too interesting here, but he's just re-picking up everything, it seems.
At least for this cluster, it's not too penalizing for it, and you know the ribbon is here.
Right.
The ones that are more scattered, especially the ones that have a Firemental Guardian, those I'd be hesitant to go back to unless I knew there was something good there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he could have saved 30 seconds or a minute if he would have just gone straight to the ribbon chest and booked it out of there, but no big harm done there.
It looks like this time we're going back to save progress to make sure that the rest of Gurgle could be completed, or could be deciding to bail and go for one of the other dungeons.
He could. It's true. He's taken a number of risks here already. He could decide to go over to Ice or Ordeals and see what's waiting for him there.
Now, Ordeals, although it is incentivized, shuffles the teleporters in this particular flag set. And so finding your way through there is quite difficult. Without shuffling, I love going to Ordeals early, but with it on, it's a lot more of a gamble to do. So I would imagine that Will's going to either stay here or do Ice Cave. It looks like Great Volcano is the pick.
Yeah, here we see xIceblue preparing for a solo black belt grind on this Agama here. He's was walking on the lava to run down the HP of his other two characters. Did that white mage just take out that Agama with 1 damage?
Sometimes a white mage is going to be a helper.
Oh man, these
relatively low HP, so
yeah, that's
this is
really
definitely
low.
a play to go grind on them for a bit. And it's also a little bit of a gamble here, because if you happen to run into a bad monster downstairs, you could lose all of this progress for the grind. And that's going to definitely be devastating.
Bad news. But with the higher HP and the ribbon, it's likely that xIceblue would be able to survive them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the dangers here. You might have Death Touch. You have a non-elemental attack like Nuke. Those would be the things that would be the most devastating. Yeah. Or if xIceblue decides to go after Carry, and Carry happens to have really high stats, that also could be a little bit of a problem here.
Yeah. xIceblue, I'm sure, remembers. I don't know if you saw my race against him. I don't know if... I think it was my last one against him. quite recent in tournament history, but I grinded a solo black belt up to 40-ish, and then on the next floor got stone touched by a bull or something. So lost at least 20 minutes of grinding. So that was fun. But anyway, it would be interesting if that happened to him, I suppose. There were some decisions I made that probably hurt me there, because one thing I did that he hasn't done is that I had already class changed by that point before I grinded, and a kind of quirk of this game, of the vanilla game, is that the black belts gain 4 magic defense per level, but the masters, which they class change into, only gain 1 magic defense per level. So if you want to grind up a black belt, generally you want to do it before you class change.
And kind of conversely, the fighter and thief, they don't get benefits of their spell slots until after class change. But since they're most likely going to be dead on both of these parties, we're not going to have to worry about them being too high of a level to get those spell slots in the late game.
Right. Yeah. Class change is kind of a... I don't know. Sometimes it seems like an obvious play, but then the it often is just something that people will want to avoid doing, unless it really seems like a good move. They just need to have a combination of weapons and armor that will really, or spells that would really prompt them to want a class change. Otherwise, it's something that people will often avoid, even if they find the tail early.
In this case, I see a lot more value for class change out of xIceblue. We found some really good knight gear. We've got the Aegis shield, which is generally the best shield in the game for them. A lot of opal equipment. We also know that the Black Wizard will be able to use all of those 6th tier spells in Crescent Lake. So Fast, Nuke, and Warp, I believe, are all 3 in 6th tier. So those are going to be much more tempting for me to go and say, well, I'm probably going to take that minute or so to go do class change if I find the tail, as opposed to Will, who might not get as much advantage out of those.
Looks like Will's using his Fade charges here on the Agamas. I wonder if he's gonna plan on a solo grind as well, and I'm guessing he will. Seems to be a typical strategy for Will that pretty much plans on.
It looks like both of our runners are kind of on the same strategy of doing the solo grind at the Agamas here. Once we know that the Agamas are a relatively safe, low HP monster, they're very tempting to get all of your leveling out of the way for the entire game. And there is going to be kind of a synchronized grind going on here for a while. I'm going to guess xIceblue probably ends up in the high 30s to low 40s for this last black belt, and probably similar for Will at the end of this.
Yeah, I think Will is even more of a believer in the strats, so he might be grinding up even higher, but he's obviously starting his grind even later, so he could be here a while after xIceblue has already moved on. This Agama, though he has low HP, he is hitting relatively hard, so he's not a complete non-threat. Ideally, you'd want to have him hitting you for much less, so that you don't have to heal as often while fighting him. But he's hitting for close to 100 damage every time, or a lot of the times that.
Right, you're gonna have very slightly over a 50% chance of the Agama getting a turn in, because you'll pretty much pop them in one punch every time. Looks like xIceblue is done. I think that was into the mid-30s for xIceblue's black belt.
should hopefully have no problem with carry here, because it's be quite sad to see a wasted carry fight, and I don't think that he's gonna walk back out of here.
Yeah, with the options we've got, there is Red D. I don't think we've seen Bull yet, and Carry. Those are the three monsters that we are going to experience for the first time probably on this floor.
Red D, you often get a preemptive against, and then you can automatically run from. Or sometimes you might want to grind here
as well.
Let's see if he grinds a few of these Red Ds. Nope, not going to happen. But the Red Ds, if they're easy, they are worth more experience than the Agamas.
The only reason I would see not grinding them very often is because you only have one trap tile there, so you're going to have an off tile step, which could get you other random encounters from the dungeons every other battle from the Red Ds, whereas the Agamas, 2 trap tiles back to back, you can just go grind them non-stop, and you never have to worry about interference. We'll see how well a low 30s black belt does against Carry. Carry opening with Thunder, which is not too threatening now that we have a large pool of HP, and looks like Carry does not have a lot of defense, so should be going down quite quickly.
Well, a lot of HP though. Yeah. Over 1,000.
Somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500.
So some interesting things happened with... Oh, I think Will had some... had his red mage die, and he decided it was too early because his black belt is still too low of a level to take down the Agama early, so that's why he brought him back to life.
Okay.
But xIceblue is already out of the volcano here.
Assuming everything goes well, that Will be joining xIceblue having defeated Carry in a couple minutes. In the meantime, let's kind of speculate about where xIceblue is going to go. I would probably go Ice Cave here. You do have the ability to just pretty much clobber any of the big monsters that get in your way, but there's a lot of packs, and so if you get ambushed, then even with that big black belt in the front to tank a lot of damage, the rest of your characters might have a hard time getting through there.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen anything to particularly move us or dissuade us from going to either the Ice Cave or Ordeals. So I think generally just going to the Ice Cave first makes some sense because it's a bit closer to do it that way, or it's more efficient overworld routing to do that, and then you can do Ordeals on the way back to going to Earth or Marsh Part 2, or perhaps turning in the Crown.
Especially with Warp, Ordeals gets a little bit of a easier experience for the randomized teleporters. Ice Cave also benefits a lot from Warp to get the incentivized chests out quickly, but that is something where you're going to be doing most of the dungeons anyway if you want to go clear that place out.
Yeah, Warp and Ice Cave both benefit quite a bit from... Or, I'm sorry.
Alright, looks like we've got
Ice Cave and...
Fast, and I don't think that he has Warp already, so that might be a slot that is currently blocked until he class switches to Black Wizard.
Yeah, he must know that he can't learn that. I certainly don't remember those things. But, yeah, the Ice Cave and Ordeals both benefit quite a bit from using Warp. In the Ice Cave, you can skip right to the floater chest instead of having to do the fall down the hole and walking around to fall in a different hole to get to the floater chest. And in Ordeals, the Ordeals teleporters are all mixed up as far as the places that they take you. So, if you have Warp, what you can do is if you take a bad teleporter that takes you backwards in the sequence somewhere, you can just use Warp to go and then take the right teleport. Warp should be learnable. Oh, he did get Warp already. All right. Oh no. Will's black belt just died, and oh, okay.
Oh, he's got life on the red mage. That is a nice bailout right there.
Yeah, definitely. That's quite significant. That could be significant for the late game as well, because, xIceblue for now, unless he gets class changed, he's only going to have one person with the life spell, whereas Will has two.
And I don't remember where life was in the table, so it could also be in a slot where the knight simply can't get it. The knight is very limited in terms of what spells they can pick up.
Yeah, but I think if the red mage can get it, then the knight can get it. The knight can generally learn anything that the red mage can.
xIceblue is going to be seeing a lot of the monsters in here for the first time. Didn't go down to the wizards in Marsh Cave, didn't go through Earth Cave, so almost all of the encounters here are going to be new. And that means it's learning time and opportunities to find out which monsters are going to be particularly devastating. So far, nothing too interesting that we've seen.
You're not looking at grinding opportunities here in the Ice Cave, except perhaps on the eye. Generally, you're just looking to see what's going to be dangerous, to know, how much you have to prepare yourself once you get into a battle.
Yeah, the eye in the ice cave here is another great grind spot if you didn't get Agamas, because the eye is actually worth about a third more than an Agama is, and he also has less HP by his base stats, so it could turn out that you have an really accessible one. There is a big thunderbolt of mages. These guys, 90% ambush rate, so xIceblue was lucky to not get ambushed here, but any other mage encounters could be really bad throughout this entire cave.
I see he was choosing to fight this. I wonder if he's gonna choose to fight mages in the future, if he'll be running immediately.
And what do we get for doing this? We're gonna find out. It is a house.
One thing to note there is that he did not have to fight that. He could have walked in the hole behind the chest and then used warp, if he does indeed have warp.
I think he might have warp, but not be high enough level on his black mage to cast it yet. I didn't see what level the black mage died at.
That's an interesting point. That kind of nullifies the usefulness of the warp there, doesn't it? No charges. Alright. Well, he's already up to 4 of the level 4 charges, so he must be getting pretty darn close.
Yeah, if he's got 4 4th tier charges, he definitely has a 5th tier charge. And whether he's got 6th tier charges, that would be really close to it.
Is Will frozen here, or is he thinking?
I see his timer not moving, so I think he is frozen in place.
Ah, yeah, yes.
Gonna give it a refresh to see if we can get Will back, or if it's on the restreaming end.
Oh, he's temporarily slideshowed.
Well, we do know what's in Volcano, but he's coming up on the carry fight, and we didn't see anything particularly bad in the fight, but that also could be because xIceblue dealt with carry so quickly.
Yeah, xIceblue had to do quite a bit of damage to carry, so I feel like Will must be a lower level. I don't think he got up to the high 30s on his black belt.
Opal Bracelet there is a great find. That is the best universally usable body armor in the game. So those bracelets, Opal and Gold, particularly good to have if you've got mages in your party. You could also use it on the Black Belt, but the Black Belt's innate armor class from his level is generally going to be better for a lot of situations that you'll be in if you've done the big grind like this.
Alright, it looks like Will's stream is moving again. That's good. And it's pretty much in sync with xIceblue. wonder what Will's got left for heal potions here.
He's got a Cure 4 left, so no problem for the black belt. And it looks like he's 22, which is quite a lot lower than xIceblue did for the grind. We'll see where Will decides to get levels. I'm presuming that there will be more leveling before the late game, and maybe waiting for a place like the grind at the Ice Cave to do it.
Oh, it is randomizer, so there's a chance, in theory, that you wouldn't need to level anymore, other than killing the things that are in your way. But the more likely scenario is that you're gonna have to do some leveling.
This is an interesting strategy. Will going for defensive at the start. That means Carrie's gonna have more time to show off various spells and skills. We only saw Thunder and Ink on xIceblue side. There could be more trouble lurking beyond those. And it'll probably be about 6 rounds that Will has to survive through here. Deciding to sacrifice the red mage to keep the black belt alive. He doesn't know how much HP Carrie has. We know that Carrie is really high on HP. So this is going to be a very scary fight from here on out.
Yeah, it's not looking really good for Will. That's a little too much damage for Will's capacity to take it right now. And Carrie's got a number of... Oh, that floater is basically one chest away from vanilla location.
So we know where the airship is. Looking like no ruby required. And we're going to have to hope that Will gets the hit here.
Yeah, this is quite rough for
Oh, he's
Will.
going down. And so that cost him a lot of time on that grind. Will he go back into Volcano? He knows now that Carrie is a decently respectable opponent. And there's the ruby in the incentivized ice chest to just be extra insulting. Appears Will has decided to bail on Volcano, maybe joining xIceblue here in the ice cave shortly.
Yeah, that is really rough. And not only does xIceblue have a lead just in the progression that he's found here, and the nice to have items with the opal bracelet, but he's also got a huge lead in experience with his black belt being up in the high 30s.
And just mentally, losing a grind like that really has to put you in a tough place, because you know you are definitely behind your opponent unless they had a similar misfortune. So we might see Will take a lot more gambles to try to catch up in the late game.
Yeah, like if I'm in Will's position, I think I would probably go immediately to Ordeals, regardless of finding the floater in ice. Maybe he'll go to Ordeals before ice.
Yeah, from what we know, ice seems to be the best play here. So hopefully Will decide to join xIceblue here for that clear out. And with the grind being generally easier to escape from, because there's no additional bosses waiting for you at the end, Will might decide to get some levels here at Ice Cave to make up for the ones lost at Volcano.
It doesn't seem like, other than the mages, with their thunder, it doesn't seem like ice was too bad in general.
Yeah, I didn't see anything really notable there, but the mages, because they do have a very high ambush rate, those are going to be scary. They could pop up at any time while you're walking around in there or grinding on that eye. And so that would definitely be a worry if you saw those once. They might be coming back again. And for those that are joining in the middle of this match, this is the knockout of the semifinal round of the losers bracket for the Final Fantasy I Randomizer tournament between xIceblue and WillBloodworth. The winner goes on to the finals of the loser bracket, and this is getting towards the end of the Randomizer tournament in general, so just a couple more matches left to go. xIceblue going down to pick up the airship. So with the floater in hand, it's going to open up a lot of treasure chests. There are a fairly good number in Cardia Islands, which are now basically freely accessible. Even though you don't have the tail to class change, you might still want to take a trip to Cardia just for the treasures. You can also get the 4 items out of the Titan's Tunnel and the Rod, which xIceblue is doing right now. So there is quite a lot that you can kind of route in now. You also have the decision about whether you want to explore the northern continent. A lot of towns have just opened up, or whether to continue diving into dungeons. I can't imagine that there's too much interesting spell shopping left to do, given that xIceblue did not level up his mages very high.
Yeah, you'd like to have things like Life 2, perhaps, but he doesn't have a lot of capacity to use those spells, even if he gets them. But still, even a couple of charges of that might be worthwhile. There's our first warp use of the match, maybe?
Deciding to feed the Titan unnecessarily.
Yeah, he might just be clearing a spot out of his inventory to put things in a better position for him. I'd consider it as a way to put heals in a better spot, perhaps, so that you can manage them more quickly. But it's not really much of a concern at this point because they'll be moving around plenty before the run is over.
Right, I would probably only worry about my heal potion location for Temple of Fiends. Everywhere else, you generally are not using gigantic stacks of them, and so having them in a little bit less convenient spot is not too bad.
Yeah, he could be just doing it for, just for fun. That's interesting that... Oh, maybe he didn't save before he checked the first cave. Like, in that cave, at least, he found a heal staff, which could be helpful in some scenarios, but the first cave was even more garbage than that one. And he didn't reset there, but I don't think he had actually saved before he entered the first cave.
I think with the White Mage and potentially Knight as well having access to Cure 4 at a low level slot, there's probably not too much worry about running out of healing in most areas. Temple of Fiends is always the exception. You can never have enough healing there. So that'll be probably the only spot you'd worry about it for. And he's got a heal helmet to make up for it. Heal helmet not quite as good because you're limited in terms of your armor slots quite severely. It's much easier to lug around an extra weapon than it is to lug around an extra armor piece.
Yeah. xIceblue did find a flame shield there, which is a nice piece of armor to get at this point that gives you resistance to ice spells.
And that'll be pretty good for Will as well, should he happen to find the tail, because the ninja can use the flame and ice tier. Ninja cannot use the opal tier, which is night only.
Yeah, the battle is in Elfland. And it's 65, or in that area, 65,000 gold.
Yeah, I think the bottle was very close to maxing out, if not maxed out.
Yeah, if I recall, it might have been completely max price, and the gold bracelet was 65,100 or something.
And maxing is something that works differently in this version of the randomizer than the latest version that's out there. The tournaments do not update the version of the randomizer they use throughout the competition, so that you have kind of practiced on this one. Later on, what they've done is instead of scaling numbers up, they scale them down to prevent overflow. So that fixes a lot of bugs in the late game with monsters not giving you experience because they overflowed, and it'll change what a lot of these prices look like. xIceblue going in for Ordeals here. See how nasty the teleporters are.
It's kind of bad news for Will in a way, because this would have been possibly the best way for Will to catch up by going into Ordeals and having xIceblue skip it, but
one thing that makes Ordeals challenging with the randomized teleporters is that there's a limit to the number of teleports you can do in a dungeon before the game will soft lock the next time that you open up the menu. So you see xIceblue kind of bailing out to reset his count.
yeah, I think half of the reason for that is because he only has one charge of warp right now. He wanted to cast warp again, but that wasn't an option for him. So we'll see him cast warp here, and now he knows he needs to go to the absolute last spot for the teleporter on this section right here.
Yeah, this is an easy one to miss, but there is a really, really far away teleporter in this group that wraps all the way around the floor. I think a lot of people, if you weren't doing Randomizer, don't even know that this is part of that same room.
Yeah, whenever I'm giving directions to someone to do this in vanilla, I just say take the bottom one every time, but I don't even think about the path going beyond that that third one there in the group of 4.
I think we're in new territory for xIceblue side, so we might be close to finishing the teleporter maze. And he's out. All right, so this is the floor that has all the value for Ordeals. There is going to be 8 treasure chests that are regular and 1 that is incentivized at the very end. We'll find out if this trip is worth it. Since the rupee's already been found, probably the worst thing left is the adamant. And even that's not too bad, since xIceblue does have a fighter.
Ooh, we got a power gauntlet. That's something that people like to see.
That is very big. The Power Gauntlet lets you cast Saber, which is a buff spell that increases your damage and accuracy. Definitely going on the black belt with the strategies that they're using here. And a ribbon. Don't walk away from that, xIceblue.
Yeah, a ribbon and dragon armor. So, we're just seeing all the good armor, and it'd be really difficult to...
Oh, and there's the tail, so
yeah, you kind of want to cash that in.
And the adamant, and we haven't even gotten to the incentivized chest yet, so Matt's being a ribbon. Slab. Alright.
Yeah, so this place is 100% required. Just because of that slab.
So the interesting thing is that xIceblue is going to get a lot more value out of that Ordeals. Dragon Mail, Excalibur, has the Aegis Shield from earlier. The Knight is basically done. Got all the top tier equipment that you could want to have for him. So that is going to be very big, having the Knight there instead of the Thief.
Yeah, everything that's happened here has really just increased xIceblue's lead more with the items that he's found here. It looked like xIceblue was maybe grinding these a little, but I think that they have those zombie dragons have a bit too much HP to worry about grinding too much.
Yeah, the zombie dragon, kind of a long shot play. At this point, I wouldn't really expect grinding again until we got to some of the very, very late areas. Mirage Tower, Sky Castle, or even Temple of Fiends itself. With travel spells, you can grind in Temple of Fiends, revisit it in the past, and then warp back to the present. Without travel spells, you're actually just stuck there entirely. Will cleaning out Cardian should be fairly happy with the, I believe, one nice item that was found in the Cardi Islands. Hopefully we'll also go over to Ordeals next to get pretty much the biggest value that you're probably going to see in this seed.
Man, I wish that xIceblue would have gone to um gone to the Bahamut and gotten his class change first, so he could have learned his life 2 right away on his white mage there.
A bit surprising to not do that, considering that you're so close to it, where the tail was located. You've got the airship already, and you know that you're about to go to some spell shops that you might not want to backtrack to later.
Yeah, let's see what xIceblue decides to do right now. Is he gonna go get that class change?
Yep, going right for the class change. At least Gaia is the one that you can land directly next to. It's a little bit more frustrating if you do that for Onrak or for Lufania, which have really big long walks. And Will going for Ordeals as well. With the airship, you have to land a very far distance from the dungeon and walk up here. This is actually the intended way of doing it. But if you have the boat and the canoe, you can get out directly into this little river that Will is about to cross over, and that saves you a bunch of overworld walking at the cost of a lot of sailing. Really depends on what monsters there are, and when you're doing it, for which of the 2 paths is the better way to go through the game.
Yeah, you think that the river there was not an intended way to access Ordeals?
It's intended that you can get out of the boat into the canoe, because I think it is pictured in some of the early guides from Square, but they intend you to do Ordeals very late. The only hint about this quest is in Onrak, so you would have had the airship by the time that you would have gotten it. Now here's a question of where xIceblue is going.
He's going to get the slab translated, and then maybe he'll go get the... Did he not learn spells there? I saw several spells that were worth learning in that shop right there.
I think xIceblue didn't have money the last time at Melmond, and after doing the Agama grind, you've got several 100,000 gold, which generally is going to take you through the rest of the game.
Oh, no, I meant right now. I didn't see him, like, select spells to learn. If I didn't already have Wall and Fog too, I would think about picking them up.
That is true. I don't know if the White Wizard has much. I definitely do like Wall. Maybe xIceblue thinking that there is enough ribbons around that is not going to be necessary for the late game.
So xIceblue did not go get his Excalibur yet, I guess. Obviously it would be nice to do that when you can do it in tandem with the crown chest. Though the crown is basically going to be xIceblue's go mode here.
Right, you do have to go back to Dwarf Cave, probably, to search those out, unless feeling confident that the last ribbon is not worth it, or has already been found by the time that the crown is located. Because those are such a great check in terms of dense value that, like, I would go in there for like the 30 seconds to get 8 treasure chests.
Oh, Fire 3 is a great spell, and it's really nice to have if it's on a different level than Nuke, for sure. Ice 3 is probably more useful than Fire 3, but Fire 3 still has its uses for sure. You can use it on, in Temple of Fiends, you can use it on zombie dragons, on the Frost Giant, Frost Wolf combo, on the Phantom. So, I definitely think it's worth picking up if you have a free slot for it.
Yeah, the argument I could see against Fire 3 is it's stacked up against some other good spells there. And so you might want to save Ice 3 for the Water Metal on the floor with Kraken. So maybe there is kind of just too much competition for some of these. It looked like most of our spells were concentrated to 2 or 3 levels, meaning that a lot of the spell slots are really not going to get much use. There's a question about what does the cube do? That's a required quest item to get access to the last dungeon of the game before the big finale. And so we will eventually have to go to the waterfall to pick it up, but that's one of the ones where we know where it is. This version of the randomizer does not let you shuffle NPC quest items, things that are given to you by NPCs, but a future version of the randomizer, that is a feature that is potentially being worked on.
Yeah, this randomizer has really active development right now, and almost any feature you can imagine is being worked on or talked about in some capacity. So, I definitely recommend following this randomizer, following the progress of it, and maybe by the time the next tournament for this randomizer rolls around, it might look quite a bit different from what you're seeing right now.
And Will getting through to the end of Ordeals has to be very, very happy deciding to come here with the sheer number of items inside that are going to be very useful. Meanwhile, Earth Cave, I think, has been its usual, somewhat mediocre self. One of the things that make Earth Cave very frustrating is that the treasure chests are all spread out, so everything is like 1 through 2s, but there is the crown.
Wow.
So you have to go into
everything
middle of Earth Cave
right now.
And with that, xIceblue is pretty much going to jet through. I would still do groups of treasure chests like the Dwarf Cave, but I would probably skip most things in Earth Cave. Probably doing the waterfall because it's right by the cube. Maybe some in Mirage and Sky that are clustered, but you can really skip a lot of treasure chests now that you've got probably 2/3 of every item that would be on your go list.
I think I would have done that one chest up there that xIceblue's walking by right now. Because it's a pretty quick check and you can do it without getting an encounter. But yeah, he might be going through for minimum. He's got to check this ruby chest though. If he skips this, then we know that this is serious business here. He is in pretty good shape though. There's very little that he could still want. I think the best thing might be like a defense sword. Or Mazmune obviously would be pretty cool still.
At this point, Mazmune probably break even with the Black Belt's fists. And you got Excalibur for the Knight. So might not be a really big consideration. Right. Ribbon is still available. I think we have only seen 2 of the 3 ribbons. Defense sword, as you mentioned, is another good one. Really not too much, though, that is going to swing what I would consider a important item, because we've got the Power Gauntlet. We've got 2 of the ribbons already. We can buy pro rings and gold bracelets, so armor generally not much of a problem. And we have Dragon Mail, Aegis Shield. We've seen all the Opal stuff, so very little that you'd be looking for.
Oh, but that's the first time I've seen that blaze out of the wizards. So they have a ton of HP and they've got blaze, so that they're a bit nasty here, but the times at which they encountered the wizards, or the way that their wizard fights went, that blaze didn't become much of a factor. So Will is taking the more probably traditional route at this point, after getting the airship and going right up to the volcano here.
He is, but I don't think that he has purchased the bottle. So doing Onrak before you've got access to Sea Shrine is a little bit of an interesting decision here, because he could be coupling this together with at least getting some progress in another dungeon.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if he knows where the bottle is. You'd think that he probably checked the shop.
Yeah, it was in Elfland, and you're usually checking all of the shops early on, because you just have to know where things like soft potions and houses are being sold. So usually those are the ones that you're definitely hitting.
And the bottle, of course, since that's the one thing that you have to purchase from a shop. Alright, so there goes Lich. Usually not much of a threat, and no exception this time. So that's 2 orbs lit for xIceblue to none for WillBloodworth.
Yeah, Will has been down to fight Carrie, and unfortunately died on the fight, losing the grind progress in the process, so that has definitely set Will back a little bit here. But Temple of Fiends is very unpredictable. That is one where if you get down to Chaos and you wipe there, that is on the order of 20 minutes that you could be to get back there. So there is very large swings possible at the final boss.
I'm wondering if xIceblue is going to get the Excalibur made, or if he's just going to go with the Vorpal. You'd think he would.
I think he's getting it, because there is really no other reason to go back to Dwarf Cave.
Well, I bet he's going to go down and get the big chunk of chests at the bottom just to check, but... maybe not.
No.
Just walking out.
Oh, he hasn't done the rest of the Mystic Key quests.
Oh, yeah.
All he's done is ask us.
Prevent him from doing that, I suppose. You could just, tell those dwarves, he's got to be good for that, right? Like, I'll come back with the key later. You can trust me. You gotta wonder about the security in these places anyway, if they use the same key to lock everything in every different place.
Well, given how hard it is to find this key, probably pretty secure that once you put an item in there, you're never getting it back out. And it looks like xIceblue is still going to pick up some treasure chests here. There are 4 in Elf Castle. And with xIceblue basically being in go mode, it really is going to come down to whether Will decides to go back to Earth Cave to get that crown for progress.
Yeah, because Will has access to everything else. He can do Sky Castle, he can do the Sea Shrine. I'm not quite sure why xIceblue chose to do the Earth Cave first, so it'll be a interesting question to ask him when this race is over.
Earth Cave for me is almost always the last one I do. So like I would do probably, ideally Mirage and Sky Castle, which has very high value, before I would go off and try to clear Earth if I had, skipped it early on. If you have to do Earth at the beginning, then you might as well commit to clearing it out while you're there.
Right. Sea Shrine is also tempting because on the mermaid section you have a ton of chests that you can check at once and have no encounters. Right,
and Sea Shrine only has 1 chest locked by the Mystic Key. Mirage Tower and Sky Castle 0 chests locked, so there is very little the key actually blocks in those dungeons, so clearing them out is very safe.
Yeah, there are no key lock chests in the Earth Cave, though, as far as that goes.
There we go. Now xIceblue picking up life 2. We were wondering earlier why skip those spells. Looks like it was just a decision of routing to go wait a little bit for class change and then come back here afterwards.
Alright, now we're gonna see the waterfall and Sea Shrine from xIceblue.
Looks like it. I would probably combine these two together. Since xIceblue does have the Oxial, we'll be able to go into Sea Shrine and get whatever xIceblue decides out of that, which could be nothing. With almost everything in hand, those treasure chests are not necessarily required to go at all up to the mermaid section. And the ones downstairs, generally only clumps of 2 or 3. So less value than you're going to have in Sky Castle.
Yeah, as far as Will catching up, we look at Temple of Fiends Revisited for a way that he could possibly catch up, but xIceblue's levels are already so much higher than Will's, so it's possible that the luck or maybe some decisions or hey, who knows what will just work out more in Will's favor than in xIceblue's in the Temple of Fiends, but there's not much on the surface that seems to be stacked in his favor.
At least from a character selection perspective, I think we found out that because of the spells and the knight equipment that we found, it definitely does favor the choice of Fighter and Black Mage over Thief and Red Mage.
Although Fighter and Red Mage would probably be better than, well, I guess I don't know about that. The Black, I don't know of those level 6 spells, the Warp and the Nuke, if the Red Mage can learn those. But the Red Mage can have life.
That is true. That is a big thing to have life. And
Nuke, Tier 4, I believe.
Even though Nuke sounds really good, because we have a setting for this round of the tournament where enemy skills and abilities can be scaled very high, you might need 20 cast a Nuke, which you're never going to have in order to be able to take a monster down. Oh, look, Will getting the Mazmune, so...
Interesting.
That'll be very important to have.
Definitely not going to see xIceblue find that.
There is a chance. Oh, and Ribbon in there as well. Because Mirage Tower first floor is very easily accessible and clumped together, I could potentially see xIceblue getting those treasure chests. We'll probably find out in about 5 to 10 minutes whether xIceblue is going to be benefit, and a bunch of ice gear as well, which is going to be great for a ninja.
So that was most of the value that's left right there. The Mazmune and the third ribbon.
Yeah, we are down to just scraps for the rest of the treasure chests. So we know Sea Shrine is going to be a bust. We know that Sky Castle is a bust, and Temple of Fiends Revisit, there's only a couple of treasure chests in there anyway, so usually nothing important. I'm not sure if we've seen a lot of the attack items, so you can see the Mage Staff there, but we still have Thor Hammer and Zeus Gauntlet, I believe, that have not shown up. But those in the late game, because they only do Lit 2, or the Black Shirt doing Ice 2, not really going to be useful for killing a lot of monsters. I kind of like the Black Shirt for Water Mentals, but that's really it.
Yeah,
Will setting up encounters here.
xIceblue starting in the Sea Shrine and heading straight to Kraken. No surprise there.
Kind of as expected, there is a lot of treasures up on the Mermaid floor, and you can get there fairly quickly with Warp. But we know it's definitely the correct play from what we've got. xIceblue having to stick this fight out. There's a lot of unrunnables, particularly this one that's very frustrating because it's not even worth a lot of experience. And there's a ton of monsters that get turns in there. The best thing you can say about them is that at least the unrunnables, they can't ambush you. Will also getting a katana there, but with the Mazmune, unless the black belt for some reason does not level up very much, probably has katana on ninja instead. Could put on red wizard.
Yeah, I would definitely consider that there. Will has not class changed yet though, so katana is not yet an option for him.
Has that class change and has that level, which makes me think that going to team out would probably be a bad idea here. Hopefully just going to get the treasure chests, because that top Sky Castle does have a lot of very nasty monsters up there.
Yeah. I don't know if Will is going to want to... Well... I was just thinking, does Will actually have everything he needs here to access this? But I guess he does have the cube, so he's good to go.
And he's going up.
Yeah. Is Will gonna want a class change when his black belt is such a low level because it's gonna impair his black belt grind a little bit when he doesn't actually. He's not gonna be able to level up his magic defense at the same rate.
That is going to be a tough question. It really depends on the level the grind starts. I can't imagine that this is going to be a grind for blue Ds, but it could be because this is a monster that, assuming that he's got relatively weak skills, you can take it out easily. Looks like this guy's got way too much evade though to go and pick off.
We're gonna need some fade charges here, I think. Oh wow, he's only got one left on both of those guys. I think that there should have been an instay or a house use before we came in here, and just taking a slow on top of that. We already can't hit him. Oh wow! Takes down the blue D with break.
Luckily, blue D just stature. It was a decoy for the real threat, which upstairs is Warmech, and we'll find out if we have any Warmechs when our runners go up there. I'm hoping for at least 6 Warmechs. Only 4 can appear on the screen at once, but if they stand on each other's shoulders, maybe we can cram a few more in.
Will checking the vanilla Banesword chest just moments after xIceblue actually found the Banesword.
I'm still a little bit puzzled about what Will is going to do in here. With the setup that there is right now, I don't see a way for Will to take out Tiamat. And having to backtrack is going to be at least another blue D fight to get through.
Yeah, that's probably why he saved his fade charges. He wants to use those on Tiamat, but even so, it still might be a tall order. And
Tiamat can have up to 3,000 hit points. So those fade charges, at most, is going to be about 500.
Yeah, if he came out of here with another game over on a Fiend, that would be a crushing blow. I don't know if we...
Toxic on the Nightmares. So I don't think we saw that when going through Ordeals. Toxic is a skill that the Iron Golem has. Basically, it's instant death, but has a relatively low chance of working. Does make it a lot scarier, though, walking through some of these places.
These eye fights are pretty welcome for Will, at least. Oh, meanwhile, we've got Kraken 1 over on xIceblue's side.
Yeah, he's usually unimportant. Kraken 1 is somewhat scary in the base game, but really it's the refights that you have to worry about. Kraken 2 and Tiamat 2, sometimes Carry 2. Going through the Gauntlet of Temple of Fiends Revisited, those are the ones that give you a lot more trouble than the first time you face the Fiends. Because the randomizer saves a bunch of skills for that late game boss pool, you know that they're going to be loaded. And the ones at the beginning, for the first fights, generally don't have nearly that same level of destructive capability.
I wonder if xIceblue will put any spells on his knight. You can learn life on him at least. Wasn't Fade level 2 as well? He can learn that too.
Yeah, I believe Life and Fade are both available. Might not have a lot of spell slots by the end of this. I don't remember where the knight died in the Gurgir Volcano grind, but starting at level 15 and going on every 2 levels is when the knight gets spell slots. And it looks like xIceblue searching Mirage Tower, so we'll find the Mazmune and the last ribbon. At that point, xIceblue's got everything. Just stop opening chests.
He didn't check that last chest there. Is he done?
I think he's got to be done.
Oh, nope. Nope, he's just checking it more efficiently.
I think you mentioned Defense Sword, but I really can't think of anything that you would want to have at this point. I would more go for additional spell slots, so get some experience for those mages, as opposed to equipment, because you really have anything you could really dream for.
Why not equip the white shirt on the white mage and put the opal bracelet on the black belt? I realize that the black belt will, go back to his full level absorb once you get to level up. But for now, it'd be nice to have the bracelet on him.
Well, he couldn't swap it off without breaking the black belt glitch. To explain it to people that haven't seen Final Fantasy before, the black belt has a bug that he will overwrite any armor rating with the bonus armor that he gets for being unarmored until you go to the armor menu. So right now he's got 1 absorb rating, which means people are going to hit him really, really hard on physical skills. But if he levels up, he will suddenly have, I believe, 35 as his level. So that would be 35 points of defense instead. xIceblue also coming across these incredibly evasive blue Ds.
That's fine. He's got a nuke and a fast to throw on him.
Yeah, I think for xIceblue, unless Tiamat 1 is also really, really crazy for abilities, should be no problem taking Tiamat down with physical skills. Also, I believe xIceblue did keep the Bane Sword, so a 1 in 7 chance of also getting an insta-kill that way.
That's something to root for. Hopefully he's got a place to use that, but I'm guessing we're going to see some punching and fading and nuking, but you never know, maybe he'll bring it out.
At this point, Will seems very committed. So a question of whether he's going to try to escape out of the castle, having gone this far, or try to go through Tiamat to finish it off.
I don't think it's impossible that he makes it through Tiamat, but yeah, he might be an underdog. Certainly not a big favorite in the fight.
Knowing how wide of a range that the abilities could be, might be banking on Tiamat rolling low on stats, primarily hit points to take down for an easy kill. Meanwhile, xIceblue going through the infinite corridor room. Just have to go 2 vertical and 2 horizontal to solve this puzzle. And then on to the bridge, where Wormek is a 3 in 64 chance, and also the highest encounter rate overall in the game for this floor. So probably 6 or 7 tries at this Wormek. First try, a little bit of a failure. Second try, also a failure. Try harder, xIceblue. You want to see some Wormeks. There's number 4.
There you see xIceblue's lack of a thief really hurting him. Not able to run from this fight. It's gonna cost him.
There we go, Wormek!
Oh, hey, there he is.
And the ambush, which is about a 75% chance. Now, this might not be the only Wormek on this floor, so that'll be interesting to see whether or not we get another one. And it is a runnable encounter. Wormek is considered a normal fight, and so you might want to try to escape here. Losing out for White Wizard already, so no revival spells, I believe. I don't think the Knight has life 1.
Yeah, but he'll probably be okay.
Wormek is gone. All right, so Wormek, a lot of experience and gold right there, but...
Man, it would be a pretty wise decision on xIceblue's part at this point to pick up that life spell, I think. Just to have an extra bit of safety going into Temple of Fiends Revisited.
Yeah, already seeing the White Wizard go down once. If this happens in Temple of Fiends and you've got no way to recover, you're You're in for a very difficult stretch for the remainder of that temple.
Oh, those tasty nachos.
I'm actually surprised xIceblue taking some of these fights. Doesn't really need the experience until you might do just like another quick mini grind, but I would guess is going to go into Temple of Fiends Revisited with the party as is. Looks like Tiamat somewhat wimpy in both physical attack and absorb rating, which could be good news for Will. And we have no idea how much health Tiamat has. Could be anywhere from 150 to 2,000.
Yeah, that was quite a bit of buffing that was already on that black belt, and who knows if he needed any of that.
I believe that was a fast temper and a saber cast, and the black belt was a respectably high level, so Tiamat did not stand a chance.
Man, the only thing I want to see from xIceblue is learning that life spell.
It seems like a really good safety, and with, under 2 hours in, ready to go to Temple of Fiends, I would kind of feel like I was ahead here.
Yeah. I don't think anything's really gone wrong for xIceblue. Oh, he's got heal 3. Oh, he can't learn those slots. That's unfortunate. He could have learned heal 2, maybe? I think that's the ruse slot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's normally the ruse slot, so that would be available to the knight. And looks like going in without the life spell.
Well...
Or at least I have not seen xIceblue buy life for his knight, so
I
might
don't
have
think he has.
everything bet on that white wizard staying alive. Will doing the dash up through Warmech's lair. They're having Squint. I'm not sure if we saw those. Squint is an instant death ability.
Yeah,
that's normally held by the Perilous monster.
I saw some squints go off, but...
I was too excited rooting for Warmech, I guess, to have looked at what the other fights were doing.
Don't think it's too big of a concern. The airs are the only runnable elemental enemy.
Phantom is in the end boss pool, as is Warmech, but we didn't see too much in the way of dangerous abilities Warmech getting out of the way. So there could still be quite a lot left. Ooh, Phantom taking down the Black Wizard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when you see the Phantom, you expect just another I-type enemy with a bunch of spells, but he can hit like a truck.
Yeah, even in the vanilla game, the Phantom doing 100 to 200 damage quite easily with his physical attack. xIceblue going for the validation chest. These are all safe squares, so no worries about encounters, and getting a gold bracelet for the trouble. I'm actually kind of surprised that the gold bracelet going on that will degrade the black belt's absorb rating here. So potentially betting on not getting another level for the rest of the game. And Will in the Tiamat fight. So with Invis 2 up to protect against physicals, the black belt does have the power glove. Brack unfortunately not working, but we know that we can take Tiamat down with a couple of buffs here, so this might work out after all for Will in the end.
Oh.
Tiamat also being fairly kind, moving the damage around, not focusing on anybody. Meanwhile, xIceblue continuing down. There are a lot of unrunnables in Temple of Fiends Revisited, so getting stuck a little bit here on the second floor. Once we get down to the next floor, it is purple worms we're on the lookout for, then earth elementals, fire elementals, water elementals, and then that takes us through basically to the purple worms on Tiamat's floor. xIceblue, congratulations on your new follower.
Always remember to turn off your follower alerts in Streamlabs.
For the rest of you, feel free to also follow the Speed Gaming channel, Speed Gaming 2, 3, and 4, probably up to Speed Gaming 25 by next year. There is a lot of action on these, not just the Final Fantasy Randomizer, famously the Link to the Past tournament as well, Zelda 1, Zelda 2, there is generally some kind of tournament going on nearly 24/7.
So Will did make it through the Tiamat fight successfully then. And it looks like now he might be going back to grind on some eyes.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good play. Probably does not want to do Gurgir Volcano again for a while, just hard memories from that. So we'll see what Will's ultimate level is going to be, as well as whether xIceblue ends up encountering trouble later on in Temple of Fiends Revisited.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see. Maybe Kraken 2 one-shots his white mage and that costs him. But there's a lot that can happen between here and the end of the dungeon. So who knows if it'll be an easy one or a tough one. So far we haven't seen too much to stand in xIceblue's way. There we go. It's fantastic.
It's a lovely jingle. So I did see a bit of hesitation on Will's side. It looked like he was kind of thinking a little bit about where to go next after coming out of Ice Cave.
Oh, what did he do?
Potentially getting resupplied for a sustained eye grind?
Yeah, okay, so he must have remembered that he didn't have everything he needed. Needed some more heals, okay. Yeah. I think Will at this point is best off if he just treats this as a worst case scenario seed and levels up as much as possible and hopes that xIceblue has a bunch of difficulty. I don't think that there's really much reason for Will to feel terribly positive about, you know, how this seed has gone for him.
xIceblue coming around to Lich 2, the first of our 4 Fiend refights. The Fiend refights are implemented as trap tiles, which means if you walk back over the square, you'll get the fight again. So if you die in this dungeon, you do not save any progress at all for those mini-bosses, and there's no way to preserve it. Even exiting out will not help you. So you have to do the entire gauntlet in one go, and that'll be interesting for xIceblue with the limited supply of healing magic. We believe that has not gotten the life spell for the night. Will be very, very important to keep that White Wizard alive. Will walking around the ice tiles to kill off his other characters is going to go for a grind setup here.
Yeah, you can do this quite nicely if you have a warp charge.
So Lich 2 so far, no real obstacle. Lich 2, usually not a problem. Carry 2, usually not a problem. It's Kraken 2 and Tiamat 2 that generally will give you a surprise. And then, of course, there's always the unpredictable chaos.
xIceblue still doesn't have many fast charges to work with, though, does he? That level 6 spell level being so loaded is a bit problematic as far as budgeting his charges.
I'm gonna guess just going to fast the black belt for the critical fights, and even though you do have the Masview in here for the knight, just using the knight as a decoy.
Yeah. The knight does have all the heavy armor, so he's pretty capable of taking a lot of damage for the team.
Looks like carry 2 goes down easily as well. Kraken 2, probably the first opponent you will see that, if rolling high on his stats, could go into the thousands of damage. That's never a fun time because you have a limit of 999 for your max HP. We'll be getting his eye grind here using the black belt with the Masmune. We do know the eye has a lot of hit points, does a little bit less damage than an Agama, so you can probably keep this grind going for a while, and once the black belt gets another couple levels, should be one-shotting those eyes.
Alright, now
Kraken
we're reaching the real gatekeeper phase of Temple of Fiends Revisited.
There's the fast and the black belt, and going defensive with the white mage, I don't think Fade is really going to be useful in most cases because of the very high HP values the monster's going to have. First round poison, not too bad with 3 ribbons. And the Aegis Shield, you've got a lot of defense against the elements. Also the Dragon Mail, so fire, ice, lightning, poison, it's all covered. And Kraken, low HP, goes down one shot.
I think it was more that he had low absorb and evade, because he hit him for well over 1,000 between the knight and the master in the first round. And that was before fast, yeah.
Tiamat also going down.
Oh my goodness.
So normally Kraken 2 has 900 hit points, Tiamat's got 1100. I definitely think that they lucked out because they could have had triple HP. And the last one left is Chaos. So somewhere between about 670 hit points and 6,000 that we need to do here, and no idea what his spells are because we have not seen almost anything from the Fiends up to this point. So Chaos is a big question mark for what his spells and skills might be.
Yeah, we didn't see much depth of the spells and skills from the other Fiends, so who knows what we're going to see here. And maybe he'll just attack every turn.
Chaos's punch relatively weak. That is probably a little bit lower than his vanilla value. So that's a good sign for keeping alive on the physicals. Nuke and Nuclear are probably the 2 scariest abilities that could come up. Swirl and Tornado also pretty good. And Slow 2 happening, but not on the black belt, so no real worries there. Also a Slow 2 out of the pool. Pretty much free to go fast, and there goes Chaos.
And there it is.
xIceblue, under 2 hours, has taken this match here. We'll move on to the finals of the losers bracket. And we'll see what Will decides to do here. He's got quite a ways left to go in the game, but would be lovely to see him continue on.
Yeah. I think xIceblue's been playing this game a bit longer than Will. Will didn't really start grinding it until about the time that the tournament started, whereas XIceblue had been in a good number of races before then. So I think XIceblue has a bit more experience, but Will really started coming on strong once the tournament started and really picked up on his strats. So it was a pretty good showing for him overall. But I wonder if he's gonna finish here or what. He hasn't talked at all in the race channel, so. But I'm guessing he's seen that XIceblue finished.
It looks like we'll have XIceblue joining us here for a post-race interview in just a second.
Hey.
Welcome in and congratulations. That was a great time through there. Under 2 hours for a seed this late into the tournament. Very impressive.
Thank you. Oh man. Those Agamos were hitting really hard.
Yeah, we saw you go fairly quickly to do your grind for the black belt early on in the game. Unfortunately, Will deciding to do the same thing and dying at carry, so losing a lot of the progress there. For you, XIceblue, what was kind of the thing that you were most worried about during that match, about things that could have gone wrong?
Things that could have gone wrong? Grinding the black belt and potentially running into something with stone touch or death touch. And not finding a ribbon. But thankfully, Volcano second floor had a ribbon, so it made things totally easier.
Yeah, we were all kind of shocked when at Ordeals it seemed like the game just started dumping everything on both of you for all the quest items, all the ribbons. You found the Mazmune, the Aegis, the dragon. It was very loaded so that you didn't have to check most of it.
Yeah, he didn't get the Mazmune, or did he? Mazmune was in the
Mirage.
Yeah, that was his little surprise that you got that, but you still got in Ordeals. You got the tail and
tail, adamant slab, another ribbon,
and dragon armor, I think.
Yeah,
too.
dragon armor as well.
It was pretty loaded.
Yeah, it was pretty stacked. I always make it a point now, because of how the randomizer goes, the way it drops items in Mirage first floor. I always check the first floor Mirage.
This is me, by the way. This isn't Shao.
GG, man. Sorry about the forfeit.
What
ended up happening?
What happened? Well, it picked something to go wrong, and it did. I'm not let's see. I cleared Volcano, died on carry. I cleared ice. I couldn't grind anywhere. I tried the eye. I tried zombie Ds. Tried fires. Tried agamas, red dragons. Everything was kicking the shit out of me. Pardon my language. Everything was beating me up really badly, and I couldn't get my footing the entire race because there's a delay from stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I don't. It sucked.
I ended up doing Agamas to about 32, 33-ish.
How did you survive?
I kept my white mage alive until they were everybody was 20. Mm-hmm. I kept 3 people alive until everybody was 20 because of the fact that they were hitting so hard, and I wanted to be able to heal without using my heal potions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ran out of everything.
They had very, very low HP.
They did.
That I found out, so it was 105 or something like that.
It was low, but they hit so hard.
Yeah.
I was having no luck with initiatives. I was having no luck with crits. He was critting me more than I was critting him.
One of the things that we saw, Will, is that you got really close on carry. We knew that from XIceblue's side that carry had a lot of hit points, so that was a big concern. You were probably 1 or 2 hits away when the party wiped.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the beginning of the end for me. Losing that, I lost good solid 8-9 levels there, and the entire clear of Volcano. That was just the beginning of the end. Everything else fell down like dominoes the whole rest of the way, and it was just if I'm ranking worst races I've ever had, this is certainly in my top 3. It was frustrating to no end. And, it's a terrible way to go out. Like, not have really even a fighting chance from probably an hour into the race.
I mean, this wasn't a faint seed, to be honest. Like, everything had like a lot of HP, and they hit like a truck.
Yeah, everything did. And
I think
I couldn't get a grind anywhere.
I think if you look at my VOD and you see me like when I'm fighting Phantom hit my Black Wizard for 570 damage.
Jeez. Did you say you had a Black Wizard?
Yeah.
So you probably did you get access to Warp a little bit earlier?
I did, but I wasn't high enough level to use it anywhere until after Ice Cave. So I didn't even Warp Shred Ice Cave because my Black Mage was level 14, and you don't get a charge I think until 15, and I gained the level 15 in Ice Cave.
Right. Like at the end before I dropped, I went back to Ice Cave because I had Masamune from the Mirage Tower, and just went back there to grind the eye because it was the most viable enemy I got. Like I tried every dragon, all of them, except for gas because I didn't get that far. Wait, no, I didn't get a gas dragon in Waterfall. So every other dragon, fire elementals didn't have. They had too high of HP. I didn't try Grey Worms, but I don't imagine I'd done much better there either.
They hit hard as well.
Yeah. So it was just. I was running around like, where do I go? What do I do? Where am I grinding? I'm like, I'll incidentally run into something I can kill, and it never happened. So I was the whole way through just piecemealing together fights and trying to do something, and it just nothing worked. Everything went wrong.
I'm curious about your respective choices for character classes. It was pretty much a coin flip about which was going to have the stronger pair. It was Fighter and Black Mage versus Thief and Red Mage. Mm-hmm. And I'd like each of you to kind of talk about, why did you pick that? We'll start with XIceblue here. You went Fighter and Black Mage. What was the motivation?
Fighters are really strong. Like probably one of the strongest classes in the randomizer because of the stacking armor. You can buy, if you get a lucky drop on like armor in the early shops, you can save yourselves, hundreds and thousands of gold over heal potions instead of stacking 99, and you can just absorb damage like a champ. And then Black Mage, because I wanted access to fast regardless of what level it was in. That's why you saw me check like Gaia shops, and I also checked just for fun. I checked Leafian's shop.
Wasn't fast in Crescent?
It was Crescent. Crescent had fast and nuke. But I was checking for white magic as well. I ended up finding life 2 in Gaia.
And Will, you went with the Thief and Red Mage, so you actually had probably a better chance of getting some of those good white magic spells. What was your kind of plan overall for that?
I always take a Thief when I can, just for the purpose of running. As anybody watching this race saw, this was the antithesis of the kind of luck you're supposed to get from a Thief. Like, I get ambush after ambush after ambush, failed run after failed run. I've never seen anything like this. It's like the sea was just stacked against me, and I couldn't even run properly in this thing. So normally it works in my favor having a Thief, and it's paid off even against fighter class opponents.
My part of the encounter table for Temple of Fiends Revisited, I had 9 unrunnables in a row or something like that. Wow. It was like 3 Zombie D encounters, Frost Giant, Frost Wolves, 3 Worm in a row, and then like 3 Earths or something like that. Yeah, it was... No, I didn't power cycle Temple of Fiends.
Oh. Well, I didn't get anywhere near Temple of Fiends. I didn't even, at that point in the game, I hadn't even found Crown yet. I cleared Ordeals, Ice, Volcano without killing carry, Marsh without obviously the Crown Lock chests, and Sky Cave, the entire Mirage and Sky. And at that point, I was like, okay, I don't have a crown. I don't even have a level 21 black belt that I can recall. So I've got to go do something. Like after all the time I lost from Volcano, all the time I lost trying to grind other things, going places that didn't have anything. Yeah, this thing was lost. I think probably after Marsh.
So, Will, you did early Earth Cave, and it turned out that Crown was Earth Cave Floor 3. When would you have gone back there, having already dipped in that first floor?
I would have gone back there after clearing C. Like, I wouldn't have gone back to Earth until I could see.
So that could have been a really big factor. If you had gone all the way through when you first got to Earth, that probably would have swung a lot of that race for having access to the crown and probably getting that off your mind for being able to search things.
For sure, yeah. I think it would have helped a bit. But, again, there would have been the factor of having to grind somewhere. And you running around like a chicken with the head cut off trying to find a grindable enemy. Like, I was lamenting not trying Peninsula Power. And I never grind there. But I was thinking, you know what? With 2 Fade Casters, and I think at that point I had a Mage Staff, like, you know, I might be able to get something going here on Peninsula Power, but I never did. And I could have possibly had a good power cycle set of enemies there. I could have got some Zombos.
If I remember correctly, Zombies had like ridiculously high strength.
So they hit
I think I had one hit me in Ordeals for like 220, and that was on my fighter, I believe. And I was like, oh,
scratch that idea. So yeah, it was when you run a black belt intensive party like I always do, and you can't find a grind enemy to save your life. That's pretty much GG there. I didn't have the rest of the party to handle it, so like the best I had was a red mage with Sun Sword, 2 characters with level 2 Fade, but all the enemies were, at least if they weren't magic resistant, they had high HP. So I couldn't. There was just no winning no matter what I did. So it was GG and. Congrats! Like I said from the very beginning, you're the person I picked to win this whole thing. I wanted to be wrong for the sake of advancing, but you I'm sure demonstrated why I've had faith in your ability to run to beat just about anybody in this game. You have if I actually finished this race out, you probably would have beaten me by an hour without any exaggeration. There's no way I could have.
Yeah, I think if this had been a big race, that xIceblue still would have had a good chance of beating like the field with the way that he played this and the route that he took. Sure. Talk specifically about going to Earth first there, xIceblue, and getting that crown. What was the thought process there?
I had already gone up to get like the Oxshale, and then I went down to check the shops because I went and class changed, and I remember Temper being level 5, and I figured I had the slab already. I'm gonna go there, translate the slab, and pick up Temper. And while I was in the area, I was at Earth Cave is right there, so why not?
So it's just an overworld travel thing as much as anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I try to knock out as much like middle running as I can. So if I remember something like, hey, there's a spell here, and I end up going there, if there's a fiend there that I need to kill, I'm probably gonna dive into it.
That's pretty fortunate. Like, there's no way I would have gone to Earth, below the first floor for any reason other than I had to. So that's pretty fortunate. I think I wouldn't have done it.
And xIceblue, at the end there, it looked like you didn't get life for your knight. You were kind of concerned that if that white wizard goes down, then you have a very big problem with Temple of Fiends Revisited. What was kind of your thinking to go for Temple of Fiends right away without really getting much preparation after beating your last orb?
I remembered to grab heal 3. I forgot about life, to be honest.
Well, you tried to grab heal 3. But
yeah,
you couldn't.
I tried to grab heal 3. I remembered heal 3.
Why not grab heal 2 at that point, though?
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Second and fourth slot, you can't grab.
You could have gotten it.
Yeah, you can.
Oh.
You can't on a red mage. But I think a red wizard can get the 4th slot.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ruse can be used by everybody.
Okay, yeah, I'm so familiar with like level 3 magic being 2nd and 4th slot being blocked out that I thought level 1 was also the same.
That's the only exception. Slot 4 is viable after you class change. Slot 2 never is. Only a white mage or white wizard can get 1st slot, or the 2nd slot in level 1.
Okay, yeah, good to know.
Take that with you to your race against Edge, I guess. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, all of this information actually going to be irrelevant when we go into the next set of flags. We're going to start shuffling the magic shops up. So that's pretty much the last thing to add to the randomizer, is not just where spells are, but also the levels in the shop. So you'll have no idea what slot anything is in. It'll be a little bit more of a gamble. You know, if it's a 6th tier slot and you've got a red wizard, yeah, you got a chance. Maybe you'll be able to get the spell, maybe you won't. Is that something that you have to prepare for differently? Kind of looking forward every time you go through one of these flag sets?
Most definitely. Those are the kind of flag sets that I hope that I get a black mage roll on a randomizer. Hopefully, because black mage pretty much gets a lot of access to good spells early on. But I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. Heal spell was nice in the seed, starting with heal 3. But the lack of like AoE damage, with the exception of Fade, but the lack of AoE attack was really, really, really cumbersome.
It was brutal. And yeah, for any magic shop shuffle, I think you're smarter taking a black mage over a red mage, just because you don't know what you're going to need to get in level 5 or 6 or 7 that you'll have access to with black mage that you don't have access to with red. That can be the difference between winning and losing. As long as you can make him capable of surviving things like nuke, just grinding him up high enough to 350, 400 HP for typical Fiends, or capable of surviving that, like wall him up or something. Then it's a much better pick, I think, strategically than taking red mage.
Did we ever find nuke on the normal enemies table? I never found it.
I'm surprised I didn't get him. I hit with everything else. I'm sorry, I didn't see the death touch enemy either. Did you catch that?
Nope, I never saw that.
I think Thunder and Poison were the 2 best things we saw. Most of the skills probably on those late Fiends, which those had very, very low HP values for the values that this randomizer could have given you. So you probably missed out on seeing a lot of the good stuff.
I know K1 and T1 had really high HP. Like, Kraken took 2 black belt hits to the face for like 1,300 apiece until he finally died. I was like, whoa.
He could have capped out at 3,300, I think. For Kraken, no, Kraken topped out at 27. And T-Now maxed out at 33. So he's probably close to cap if that's the case.
Yeah, but nothing really had crazy evade or anything except for those blue dragons.
Yeah.
I tried grinding those. Whoops. I think my only real hope was I was going to take the black belt to a very high level, like probably beyond 42. I was even considering grinding it all the way to 50, and then just hoping that the Fiends had high evasion, or Chaos or Team Matter Kraken had high evasion, and then I was able to get lucky enough to get one of them to run, or something to that effect. That's all I had left in my strat bag at that point. You'd already finished.
I think I dug into your strat bag. I grinded a black belt.
It works, by the way. When you can find a place to grind, it works.
I've had the absolute worst luck with round 4 flags, so I figured I'd change it up a little bit.
Well, I didn't win a turn. Well, actually, yeah, I beat Zara. I was gonna say I only won 1 out of 4 round 4 races. I went 0 for 2 against Edge. Had the 1 against Zara, and this one here. This by far was my worst race of. Like I said, it's one of my top 3 worst races I've ever run. without exaggeration. Just everything went wrong. I considered forfeiting before you even got done.
I do want to give a shout out to Sho for doing this for you.
Yes.
Definitely, everybody give Sho a high five. He drove 17 hours to drop
Something
a laptop
like
off.
Yeah.
So Will could do this race tonight because his hard drive has crashed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my backup laptop that I've been practicing on is hot garbage. It's basically a speak and spell with internet accessibility, and it's really just garbage. And it lags like crazy and drops signal all the time. So it would have been very unreliable to run with that.
Are you gonna go join Sho on his adventure to find delicious food?
I might. If he's going soon, or if he's going tomorrow morning, I may just do that.
You definitely should. That's definitely something you definitely deserve for that.
Yeah, Sho deserves a lot of credit, and a lot of gratitude for coming up here. And yeah, if you're not following him, follow him, please. Somebody link him in chat, because I'm not in the speed gaming room right now. So somebody please link him, give him follows, show him love, subscribe, do whatever. The only thing I have to look forward to now is the bonus race at the end of this tournament, where all four of us. That's really all I've got left at this point. So I've said that if I won this thing, that I would run a solo thief, and I'm about 90% sure I'm still gonna do it.
Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to that. So we wrap up here. Any last thoughts from either of our runners here about how the tournament has been going? What are you kind of looking forward to in these last couple of matches that are remaining?
I'm hopeful that the amount of Magic Shop Shuffle seeds I played, just practicing with like Artea, I hope those pay off. We've rolled some pretty terrifying seeds. Like we had a seed where it was just Crescent Lake had the first AoE spell. So I'm hopeful that it pays off, like with the practicing I've been doing on that. And Edge is a tough opponent. Edge is definitely going to be a tough opponent. But I'm just gonna play the way I normally do and hope for the best.
And I know it's going to be a hell of a game no matter what. But, I was really hoping to go a little bit deeper here. I think I've been playing on borrowed time probably since the second round, and some people might say I had no business being this deep in the tournament, but I definitely put a lot into getting this far. And being Dark Horse, being Cinderella, I wanted that freaking Rocky dream to come true, but this is the real world, and eventually your skill gap is going to catch up with you. You can't be lucky every game. So I hope the match with you and Edge comes down to execution. I hope it doesn't come down to some goofy RNG, and I hope that's the case for the rest of the tournament. Round 4 had a lot of that. So this match aside, it's going to be great to see the three of you execute at top level. See who ends up winning this. I bet on you. So make me right.
Jay Cooper, any final thoughts from you closing this out?
No, not really. Definitely looking forward to those final matches, though, whenever they get scheduled. As far as what else we've got on tap here, looks like there's some mostly RTing in Japan over on Speed Gaming 3 tonight, and then a lot of Link to the Past big races for the finals of those tournaments coming up tomorrow and over the weekend. So guys, be sure to check out those schedules and check out the Final Fantasy randomizer schedule. I'm sure that match will get up there soon between XIceblue and Edgeworth.
I'm definitely looking forward to that RTA in Japan. I've been watching that for a while on speed gaming as it is. So I want to thank my co-commentator Jay Cooper here. I am Jair. We had our lovely tracker Trenton GL helping us out in the back end. We've got soon our scheduled match between Edgeworth and xIceblue for the remainder of the Garland bracket at the bottom. And one last reminder that we do have another Final Fantasy Randomizer tournament coming up, which is going to be the Randomizer League. That is still open. I'm going to drop a link here in chat for that. And that is all I've got. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, all the staff and organizers, and hope you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Good night, guys.